So I'm going to start with, I find one thing that I find the most interesting about you is that growing up, and you've spoken about this in a lot of interviews, there was no box for you. You always had to identify your identity, so to speak, as a French, Tamil-speaking girl at home, inwardly in India, but not outwardly, and vice versa in France. Even though you've spoken a lot about it, I've often found myself wondering what it was really like. I mean, teenage is tough enough. We all feel like we don't belong. What was it like for you? I mean, was there angst? What have to deal with it?
I mean, I don't know. I think you just deal with what's in front of you, especially when you're a kid. You think less about it when you're a child. But I think the thing I found myself doing when I look back is that I would always try and fit in all the time, So I would always be these different avatars, I was never really like myself. I was actually a very shy person, but outwardly I would put on this show of being very entertaining, very like clowning, I would make people laugh. That was my way of, getting people to just get over me, not ask me too many questions. Yeah. So that's like one kind of protective barrier I used to have. The other thing is obviously growing up, I was, on the one hand, I was always made to feel different and special because I'm white, so like boys would hit on me, or like people would sell me drugs because I'm white, or there was a certain approachability that came with being this white girl. And at the same time, I would retort in Tamil and I would give it back to them, and they would be like, oh no, she's not, we can't mess with her. So it kind of gave me almost a freedom, actually, to be able to like shift between being this foreign-looking girl that is all like naive and doesn't know what's going on, and then to being this girl who knows actually everything about what's going on and what you're saying about her behind her back. So it gave me perspective. But I don't know.
Was belonging a big deal? Was there a search for belonging ever? Did you want to belong? I mean, was it?
Of course, I still do. It's the most frustrating thing for me to not belong.
No, this outside of your, identity as a foreigner in India. I'm saying in general as well. Is that a big thing?
I mean, yeah, I think so. Right now, not so much, in the sense that I think I'm much more confident about myself now than I was as a kid. But growing up, it's like, it's normal, You want to be part of the cool group. You want to be, accepted for things.
So you don't have that. You'd say you don't have a quest for home now?
Home? No, I've made my own home. I've made my own space.
Is it inside your head mostly, or do you feel like you belong in Bombay now?
It's mostly inside my head, but it's definitely belonging in India. It's not definitely Bombay, because Bombay is like a love-hate relationship I have with the city.
You feel like you're passing through?
I feel like I love the city for the people, and I love the city for the work. But, every time I can escape, I do, because I find it's very hard to have peace of mind. Things like writing, I find hard to write in Bombay, So I grew up in the mountains in Ooty. Yeah. I grew up in Pondicherry. So I grew up in very sort of rural areas, and I like that peace. So I need time out of the city. So in that sense, but I definitely feel very attached to India. Like having lived abroad for 5 years and coming back, like this is home. This feels home whenever I come back home.
When I say growing up, what comes to your mind? I mean, when you look back, can you see at least a couple of bends that changed the direction of your life?
Growing up,
it doesn't have to be a concrete thing.
Painful things like, when I was really young, I used to have a French accent. So I used to say words like concombre, which made my mom laugh, and which made my school friends laugh at me. So then I quickly changed and I started speaking English properly. And then, I spoke Tamil, but it wasn't cool to speak Tamil in school, so I would keep quiet about that. It also meant braces for 4 years, so no chance of, flirting with any guys. It meant I don't know. I was a bookworm. I I found the stage quite early, actually. I mean, in school we used to have these drama festivals, and I think my first role I played a sheep, so not the best role. But I very soon found myself very involved. By the time I was 11, I was doing lots of plays every time, and I was very enthusiastically involved with the drama section of our school. So that was a release for me. It was really like a place to be all these other people who I, at the same time, couldn't be, wanted to be. It also was an escape from myself, since I didn't know who I was. I don't think any of us really know who we are. We're still figuring it out. So it's for me, it is that. It's being able to become somebody else. Like now, even when I go on stage, if I go on stage as a character when I'm doing my theatre, I have no issues. I go on with full confidence. But if I go on stage as myself and I have to speak, my legs are shaking and I'm so nervous.
That's very interesting. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But tell me about Goldsmiths.
Goldsmiths was a tough learning experience. Really tough, actually. I learned everything about life in London. First of all, there was the whole culture shock. For the first time I'm going abroad. I mean, living abroad, And at 18, I'm alone, and I had to earn my own money, so I had to get a part-time job while I was at university as a waitress. And it was like I didn't belong, in the sense, obviously, I looked white. But the minute I started speaking, people were like, "Where are you from? You're not English, are you? Or you don't sound French either. Where the hell are you from?" And then I said, "I'm Indian." They're like, "You don't look Indian, So I didn't fit into any box. So it was funny. And I found it hard to understand the culture. I didn't know about the TV shows. I didn't know about the jokes. I didn't know a lot of things. The first year was a tough year, I had to learn to make my own money, pay my own bills, cook my own food. I got so fat in the first year. I put on 8 kilos. I would just eat those fish and chips and terrible things. Learned to drink, lots of ales, and I don't think there was much studying going on in the first year. It was more about just handling life. But second and third year, I started really settling in and sort of, very quietly finding my way in drama and theatre. I started meeting people who had similar interests, and we started a theatre company called Theatre of Relativity, and we started doing plays around England. So, it was a love-hate relationship again, because it was all about growing up and learning to be on your own, and at the same time, not rejecting my identity, because I wasn't gonna. Like, I couldn't be English, I couldn't be that culture. So I found myself more and more writing about India or doing stuff that had to do with India. And that's why I came back, because I
was actually going to come to I was actually going to come to that. But before that, I mean, I'm also interested in how different that world of theatre might have been for you, having belong to theatre and then going to a culture where suddenly theatre can feel alien because of the text and the approach and the way it all is. Did that happen?
The good thing about Goldsmiths is it was a very sort of left-wing university. So it wasn't Shakespearean, theatre. We weren't sitting there doing this archaic voice and projecting and all of that. We did yoga. We used to hug trees. There was this this whole hippie thing going on. There was we learned about Kathak, and we learned about Buto, Japanese theatre. So we had a really mixed sort of cultural, social education. It was very academic as well. We did feminism in theatre, translation of theatre, and things like that. So I was a little lost. I didn't know what I was doing or what exactly I wanted to do. I did script writing and acting and set designing. So I was always a little lost. But what it did is it gave me perspective, and it made me, when there's so many people kind of all doing the same thing, you kind of realize your own differences, and you start seeing that as a good point rather than a bad point.
Yeah.
So you start, specifying those things which make you different, and you start using those. And doing theatre there was, it was really tough. Because again, the kind of writings that I would come up with were always like a little bit alien for them.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing pantomime and doing stuff that was very English as well. I don't know. It was a mixture.
Yeah, but coming back to the, every student who studied abroad,
Right.
all of us, had to at some point answer the question of, do we want to stay back and work here for a bit, or do we want to go back? And for a lot of us, one major factor has been the kind of work we want to do, right? Or what line we want to, what field we're in, so to speak. How was that decision made for you professionally? Because a lot of Indian actors come back because Indian-looking actors come back because it's difficult for them to find work there,
right.
which might not have been the case with you.
Right.
Was it an easy decision? Was it more an impulsive decision?
It was an emotional decision. It was.
yeah.
It wasn't an intellectual decision. It was wanting to come home. It was a feeling of, I can do more with the kind of creativity that I have and the kind of thoughts that I have. I can do more in India because it's related to India, and the stories I think of are Indian. Generally I just missed home. I just wanted to be back here. It wasn't such a, clear-cut decision, like I'm planning to do this kind of thing and I'm going to make it like an actor like this. And there was no plan. There's still no plan.
Which is great. But you came to Bombay to do theatre initially, right? So why Bombay? Why not Bangalore? Bangalore also has a really vibrant...
I came straight back to Bangalore because that's where
so
my
you did
family
theatre
lives.
so you did theatre in Bangalore as well.
I did a little bit of theatre, but mostly just workshopping and stuff in Bangalore. And I found it very difficult financially to survive in Bangalore because I was doing theatre, but I wasn't making any money. I wasn't really getting any other way of making money. And I was living off my brother. I was living in my brother's house. So for about 8 months I was in Bangalore, and then I auditioned for a play which was happening in Bombay, and I got it. So I came to Bombay for that play. It was called Contacting the World. It was the play was called Hair, but it was for this international theatre festival called Contacting the World, where they chose
Hair was was it the adaptation of Rapunzel?
That one. Yeah.
I reviewed that play. Oh yeah, you were in it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'd completely forgotten
You've
that.
forgotten?
That was so long ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
So that play was going to a festival in Liverpool because they did this. It was like they had like international. Each country had to present a play, and we were chosen to present a play. So I got selected in that audition. I came for that and stayed at a friend's place, and then I realized I started doing some ads and stuff, and I found it easier to make money, while still acting and stuff. So that was the main reason for moving to Bombay, and a bit of independence, because once you lived away from home, it's always hard to come back. So that was
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about experimental theatre in India, particularly in Bombay. It's always existed, but every generation of experimental theatre practitioners have had their own set of, issues and celebrations, whatever you might like to call it. How do you see where experimental theatre is at right now? Any thoughts?
It's there's not much, and I sound very negative, but there's not much standard for theatre in India. We have our folklore stuff, which is very strong in rural areas. Our regional theatre and stuff like that, commercial stuff.
But no one's adapting it anymore. Right? The Habib Tanveers have gone, so no one's contemporizing it anymore.
Yeah, what I'm saying is we don't really have much of new theatre or contemporary theatre, in my opinion. And so the standards are very low, you know, like anyone doing something different is like, oh yeah, something different, you know, and I find that depressing a little bit. But at the same time, I think there are some geniuses around. I mean, Anamika Haksar and Rajat, who I work with, Rajat Kapoor, and Atul Kumar. You know, there are people who are pushing the boundaries. You know, Atul has opened this theatre residency in Kamshed.
Do you feel, I don't know how you know, do you feel one of the reasons might be that because Bombay is also the Bollywood town, so it's harder to get youngsters involved? You know, the kind of
there is a lot of
theatre
hopping
needs.
from theatre to films, right? A lot
yeah.
of actors just do theatre so that they can go to films.
It's a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone.
How do you balance the priorities?
It's hard. I mean, obviously, in the last couple of years, it's the priority has become film more than theatre because there's just been more films happening and less theatre happening.
And this is a new thing for you, so...
This is a new thing for me. But then again, you know, I'm starting a new play soon, you know, I'm hoping to start a new play with Atul very soon. So, you know, it goes through phases. Obviously, I always think there are phases, you know, where the films go, and then there's always a dip as well, where everything, there's a lull, you know, where you're not really getting any good scripts and stuff. So then I'm really lucky to have theatre in a way as a backup, not a backup, but as a, you know, it's a place to like keep going and not feel the pressure of having to take every script in films because I'm not getting any work, because I have this confidence in theatre and that, you know, there's always so much to do. I've written a new play as well, which I don't know when I'm going to start, because right now I'm owned by Ayan Mukherjee. So,
have you directed? You didn't direct?
I haven't directed, but this play I want to direct, I hope.
That sounds like fun. Okay, if I were to ask you why you couldn't leave the stage, don't give me an intellectual reason, give me an emotional reason. It could be a smell, it could be anything. Why are you hooked to it? What hooks you?
I can't leave the stage. It's my gym as an actor. It's just, you know, how some actors need to go to the gym to build up their muscles. I need to go to the stage to build up my acting. You know, it's really, it just sharpens everything, and it's that gut feeling, man. Even now when I go on stage before my shows, I go to the loo every time before my shows. I get the runs because I'm so nervous, because it's a live audience. Nothing can beat that. You know, there's nothing like that being in front of other human beings and giving them that and taking from them as well, because you take their laughs and you take their reactions and you know, it's like a play. It's a play between actor and audience, and every show is different. Every single show. Your film, once it's done, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Your play changes every night depending on your audience. If it's an older audience, they just be like ha 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 ha, and you'll be a little more like serious. So if it's a younger audience, you might be like, you know, playing with them more and, you know, interacting with them. So
I mean, the auditorium, it changes with the auditorium. It changes between Prithvi and NCPA. One thing that the screen can give you that the stage can't.
Interiorization. I feel with theatre, you can very often, you know, because it requires this loudness and this sort of, you know, to be able to reach to the last row in the audience, it's easy sometimes to not feel it. Especially because you're doing it every day, and, you know, so there are nights where you just don't feel it from inside. Whereas if there's a close-up on you, your eyes can't hide.
Yeah.
They don't have anywhere to hide. You know, so you have to interiorize it and you have to feel it. So that's a discipline that I'm still grabbing a hold of. I'm not quite there, you know. There are times where I'm like, how on a, you know, day where you just feel numb do you make yourself laugh or cry, you know, for film.
Yeah. Talking of screen, we spoke earlier about your not having a ready-made box for yourself. Did that struggle of the early years come back as your career in movies started progressing? Did you deal with it any differently?
I'm sorry,
because again, there wasn't a very easy box for you to fit into when you joined the movies.
Right.
You know, Deja Vu. with in the same struggle that you'd been through in your teenage, coming back in your career, of
The
trying to
same,
find your place, of trying to make your identity, of...
a little bit, I suppose. I mean, I don't analyze it so much.
No, I meant more experientially.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like this is it all over again?
I mean, I always feel like the geek that I am inside, the brace face geek. There's ups and downs. There are times where I get a confidence which is unexplainable, and there are times where I'm that little shy girl again, and everything anyone says about me, I take to heart, and I get upset by. It's life. It's not something it's normal. I think it makes you human, to be able to feel things. You can't, I at least believe very strongly in being in touch with the world, not cutting myself off.
Yeah.
To the point where, I'm always in an AC car, in an AC hotel, in wearing sunglasses. I want to be able to go and talk to my watchman. I want to be able to have
your own
a
life.
normal contact with the world.
Yeah.
I have to have contact with the world,
Yeah.
And I think it's easy in our world of Bollywood to get completely cut off when we're moving from AC cars to airports to hotels.
Yeah.
We don't read the papers. We get, we're just shooting nights. Right now I'm shooting all nights. I sleep through the day.
Yeah.
You don't find out news until much later and things like that. So
no, I was also talking more in terms of molds. The Hindi film industry has always worked according to molds. There is a there is this kind of an actress, and then the big thing is for an actress to break that mold and do something different. But you didn't come in a mold. I mean, everyone comes in through something, and then they'll go on to something, and then so I'm just wondering. I'm sure you you don't walk in with that kind of consciousness, but I'm sure one thing leads to the other. But somewhere in the middle, you're quite a few films old. How are you thinking about it now?
See, like you said, there wasn't a plan, and definitely, I never thought of myself as different, and I'm going to come and be the quirky actress or anything like that.
But did you never even get it from the people?
I mean, now I get it, all the time. Everybody's like, oh, you always do dark, different films, and you're quirky, and, your style of dress is quirky, and this and that. So now I'm like, I play on it sometimes. I'm like, I wear my Charlie Chaplin hat, and, just play on being different, But at the same time, it's not, I don't fit into a mold, and I'm not, I definitely think it's scary for an actor, because you are an actor. You have to be everything.
Yeah.
You cannot be stuck doing the same thing, even however comfortable and safe it is.
But Kalki, that imagination also has to be in the person who's casting you, in directors, for example,
problem,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is what I was actually talking about. I mean, have you had experiences where there could be a role which you're good, you're absolutely good for, but you will not be considered for it because
of the way I
you look, or you're perceived, or something like
Definitely. Actually, I have a terrible weakness for sort of romantic comedies, and I watch all these terrible sort of Hollywood rom-coms and stuff, and I do this clown play in theatre, and I have this very funny side to me, and this very chirpy, bubbly side to me. But I don't think anyone for a while is going to consider, or has considered, there's no scripts that come to me with that sort of ditzy, bubbly, happy girl next door vibe, and I think that is because they see me as this intense actor or whatever, It's a slow process. Ayan's film, for instance, I'm playing a little more of a, loud, happy kind of Bombay girl.
Yeah.
So for the first time, not somebody negative, So that's a small change. It's something that's come happily to me. I'm very happy and I've welcomed that. But at the same time, I've got to do what I got to do. I mean,
Other than that, do you feel like it's a good time to be a part of the film industry? I mean, there's so much talk of new wave, new direction. Do you feel like it's a little bit more hyperbole, or do you feel like
definitely
it is an exciting time? I mean, I'm sure it's a mix of both, so I'd like to hear
I mean, it's
both
exciting
sides.
for me because I'm here.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I've got a career,
Yeah.
and I think in the 90s, I probably wouldn't have had the kind of career being who I am. I would have probably have to mold myself to something else.
Yeah.
So it is a good time for me. It's very exciting. It's one of those times where, you feel like people are ready to take risks a little bit more. That I have to tell you though, I read 9 scripts out of 10 that are terrible, and I'm depressed. Like I've read some 8 scripts in recent months, and just no fail. So it's not like all fine and dandy, but at the same time, I just see that there are those few filmmakers who are just going for it with like really radical ideas, and they're struggling. Like most of the filmmakers whose films I do want to do have no money for those films, because they're the kind of films which are really tough to make, and people are like, oh, this won't make money. So we are still in that zone. But it's a balance, it's a balance. I do commercial cinema as well, and from that, hopefully, we can push a little bit the barriers of what's alternative.
Yeah. What's most frustrating, other than the fact that you spoke about
the identity crisis?
Yeah, or people not being imaginative enough to give you the kind of roles that you might easily be able to do. Other than that, what's most frustrating?
I don't know. I mean, that's it really. I think what's frustrating is I'll tell you what it is. It's the mediocrity. It's the lack of interest from everybody around you. I mean, I don't want to be like sounding a little vain here, but I am an ideal actor for a director, because I'm like begging for work. I'm like, tell me what to do. I'll go research this. Give me homework. I'll do everything. I'm that kind of actor. I'm very hungry for my work. And yet most people are like, no, don't intellectualize it, and don't work too much. Make it neutral. Don't intimidate the audience with your acting. And I'm like, I don't want to intimidate anyone. I want it to be real. I want it to be connectable, and I find that mediocrity all around, even in plays as well. Like people are just like, chalo, let's just do a play. It costs nothing, and we can just put it up, and like whatever.
You're less likely to hear the phrase "don't intimidate the audience with your acting" in theatre.
yeah, maybe a little less. Yeah, that's true. But so that's the frustrating thing.
What do you think are, what according to you, your assessment, are your strongest and weakest points as an actor?
Okay, weakest points are the language barrier for sure, because Hindi becomes like a mental block now. It's like I speak Hindi and I understand Hindi completely, but I don't have that freedom to improvise like tuck, you know.
Yeah.
So you know how sometimes you just want to add a line and you just want to say something extra.
Yeah.
So I'll always say that in English, you know, and I wish I could do that in Hindi. The looks, you know, it's not a weakness, but the looks are also limiting, obviously, for that reason. But what else are my weaknesses? I get bored of repetition. So if I'm doing the same kind of role too many times, or if I'm doing the same play for too long, then I get very frustrated. I'm like, come on, we need to jazz this up. We need to do something else. We can't keep doing it. I'm sick of myself. People must be sick of me because I'm sick of myself. You know, so I always want change, and I'm impatient. That's another weakness. My strengths as an actor, as I said, I think it's the hunger that I have. I'm non-stop. Like, I'm always ready to learn more. I'm always, you know, like, always ready to sort of do another workshop and, you know, go out and do my research. And I really strongly believe that you should do too much research, too much
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
collect it all, and you'll never use all of it.
Yeah.
But it just gives you enough to pluck from. You know,
Yeah.
it's like having the choice so that you can just
Yeah.
pick and choose what you need. It gives you that freedom. So what else is my strength? I guess I try and stay. I'll try and stay grounded. Try not to like let
Yeah.
the ego take over, and like only like listen for praise. I try to take the criticism seriously and do something about it.
Yeah. What is there an upside to being a celebrity as well?
Yeah, of course. You get
What?
many things. First of all, you get wonderful sunglasses, wonderful shoes. No, you get a certain amount of attention and freedom in the sense that people.
How freedom?
Freedom in the sense that people are ready to listen to what you have to say. So
Yeah.
if you have something intelligent to say, then you can use your position.
Yeah.
You to do something.
Yeah.
Not saying that I'm such a big actor or anything, but maybe I can use my position to like bring in a different kind of script that we wouldn't normally see
Yeah.
most actresses
Yeah.
or women oriented films that we don't see very often here. So just small little things like that, I think, which are important.
Yeah, yeah. Having grown up outside of Bombay, outside of the industry, how long did it take you to adapt to the trappings of being an actor in the industry, the PR machinery, the press and all of that? Do you have a way of coping with it? Do you have a
I have a very simple way of coping with it. I believe in being very honest and straightforward, and I know it's extremely naive of me.
has it been? I mean, has it
but
come
it's
back
actually
to
working. It's actually
haunt you?
No, in the sense, sure, there are always going to be some people who write bad stuff about you, but and who don't even call you and just write stuff without even from sources or whatever they do, So you do have that. I've had them from the beginning, but I also I'm very approachable, and people have realized that more and more. So I don't go through 10 people, my PR manager, this person, that person, to get an interview.
Yeah.
I just talk directly to a journalist,
Yeah.
and that's how I am. If somebody really wants to talk to me, they can.
Yeah.
Whoever they are, if they're a student or
Yeah.
some person in the industry or some random ordinary person
Yeah.
or whatever. So unless you catch me on a really bad day where I'm like, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
But most of the time I'm quite approachable in that sense, and I believe in staying that way. What I do to protect myself is I stop reading stuff. I don't read those page threes, and I don't. I keep in touch with fans on Twitter, but even there I'm, it's a very detached thing. I come and go on Twitter, but I don't spend a lot of time on it.
And you don't have a Google alert on your name?
I don't have a Google alert. I do not want to know what's written about me most of the time, because you can chase after people, you can get back at people, but it's like a big void. It's like you're just throwing things in the dark.
Yeah.
And I'm the one throwing that energy out, and I need that energy for the work that I do.
Yeah.
I need it to act.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the physical self. The other thing about the industry, or any cinema actually, not just the Hindi film industry, is its emphasis on beauty. Has your relationship with how you see yourself physically changed?
Yeah.
And how?
It's gone.
And sorry, I want to address the beauty and the style element here. So, yeah,
it's gone full circle, because I had this newfound confidence when I came into the industry, and suddenly I got all this attention, and suddenly I was like, oh, people think I'm pretty, and whatever. But at the same time, I went and did a film like Shanghai, where I had to look very de-glammed and no makeup and all of that, and with this funny haircut, and then it was like, you're so ugly, and I got all this criticism for the way I looked, and I felt like, that's actually how I am. I am this like ugly kid from school with braces, you know. So it was like being back to teenage shy girl. So and now it's like I know like I am not like some hot model, you know. I don't see myself, nor do I behave like one of those very, very glamorous, you know, I'm so self-confident and, you know, fuck me now kind of, you know, that kind of confidence. There's not that about me.
But not that. But did you not have moments of wanting to be Rita Hayworth for a minute or
No, because, you know, I get a chance to do that all the time. I mean, I get a chance to do that when I do a magazine shoot or, you know, even in certain films like in Zoya's film or in Ayan's film where, you know, I'm made to look beautiful. And it's fun. I love it. But I also love to de-glam. I love to be in pajamas. I love to be like raw, you know, if a role requires it. I'm ready to be all these different things. I don't think everybody else is ready to accept women like that.
Yeah.
You know, we have a problem with it's like even, you know, even a woman, a guy doing an ugly role is still like, you know what I mean? Like if he's looking rough and dirty and it's all fine, but if a girl is doing
Imran was doing that in Shanghai as well.
Right, yeah. But if a girl is doing it, it's less accepted because, you know, we have a certain idea of what a woman should be. So I do want to break that. There's a certain angry side to me where I'm like, you know, fuck you guys. I'm going to just be who I am. And, you know, I will have those kind of roles if it's a powerful role. And at the same time as a person, you know, there will be days when I want to go to Prithvi in my pajamas. I'm not going to be all fully decked up in makeup and everything. And there are days where I go on a red carpet and I wear a gown and I love it, you know. And
it doesn't.
I look like a diva and I love it. So I'm comfortable with myself. I've learned to be. I go through ups and downs, of course. You get affected by what people say, and you know, you start to wonder and all of that. But I think I'm still confident enough to sort of keep doing it, you know, just keep being myself. It's a constant work to keep being yourself, actually.
Are you comfortable with beauty using beauty as a tool?
I mean, I think you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, you know, there's a certain amount of power that you get.
And this is not specific to films. I mean, I think this is a question for every woman.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of power that you get when you're looking a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, it might be because you're looking really beautiful.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're attracting everybody's attention.
Yeah.
You're getting people to talk to you, and they're listening and whatever.
Yeah.
At the same time, it could be an intimidating thing. You could wear a hat and like a suit, a man's suit. And suddenly, like, you know, people treat you like very intellectually, and they think you're really, you know, and so it's all like how society is built, and it's part of that game. But at the same time, I'm ready to break that at any point. Like, I don't want to be attached to that. I don't want to be needing my beauty in order to get things. I find that very scary. I want to be able to transform at any point. I want to be able to let go of beauty and you know, that kind of thing.
But do you use it for self-expression outside of your profession as well?
Yeah, definitely. There are days where, you know, I want to make a statement in the sense that, you know, I want to be that chick who doesn't care, or, you know, I want to be that chick who like is tough, or I want to be that chick who's really, you know, like for really like chilled out and hippie, or it could be also like really glamorous, and, you know, depending on my mood, definitely. It is fun. I think everybody does that, especially women.
Yeah.
We're manipulative little creatures, aren't we?
Are we? Isma Chagtai had said that what on earth are women going to use if they're not even allowed to use their wiles? What do they have but that?
That's true.
But you know, that aside, completely changing the topic. I've read n number of articles, n number of interviews about how you've brought a certain level-headedness to Anurag's life, to your husband's life, a certain degree of calm to his life. And even before I knew I was going to interview you, I have always read that and wondered, what was your side of the story? You were young.
He's not level-headed.
Is it easy to deal with? I mean, it isn't. I don't even know why I'm asking. But how did you deal with emotional baggage? And how did the relationship mold you? I somehow haven't read enough of that.
you know, it's been like a roller coaster ride with Anurag, and I've learned a lot about myself. You know, like I found myself changing a little bit too much in the beginning, in the sense that because I was actually a very disorganized person, for instance.
Yeah.
Very, very unorganized and messy. But when I moved in with Anurag, he was so much worse than me that I found myself being the organized person, being the cleaner, the person who fixes things, the person who organizes the trips or the holidays or
Yeah.
all these things. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not the person that I am. I'm a cool, hippie, like chilled out person, and like I believe in, keeping the peace and, not like getting all like tense and everything. So that happened because suddenly I was with this person who was so chaotic, and I was like, oh yeah, I need some balance in my life. But I think I went through that phase, and now I've come out of it, and I've really learned how to sort of be my own person. And it's because of Anurag also, because he's such an overpowering person in a way. He's been around for so long in the industry, he knows everything about it, blah, blah, blah. And I am very dead straight about not wanting his influence, not wanting his attention too much. Like, of course, if he thinks I'm a good actor or whatever, he should audition me.
That's an overall problem with dating an older person. I mean, it's not just about specific to the industry, because they're so set in their ways.
They're set in their ways, and they keep they keep saying, I've been around for long, I know how it works, this,
and so they can't really change, because even if they're saying they will, I don't know how much they can.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah. So that was something very difficult for a while. It still is difficult because he's also very protective. He always wants to make sure I'm okay, and if some sleazy producer comes to me, then what's his name? You tell me, I'll sort it out. I'm like, I'm not telling you. It's my business. I can deal with myself. Yeah. I'm a tough chick. So in a way, I've had to stick to my guns a lot more because I'm with Anurag. I've had to be my own person a lot more, and now it's at the point where like we both have started respecting that space that we need. We're still struggling with, how much do we need to come together and how much do we need to separate, But I think we understand that, love is in the end like nothing to do with egos, and you gotta let the other person make their mistakes, and you gotta let the other person do their thing. But you gotta be there whenever they need you as well. So it's just that.
Yeah. What about, what I was talking about earlier, that Anurag has also said that in several interviews, that when you met him, he wasn't in the best of spaces in life. Did you ever feel like that could take a toll on you? I mean, just dealing with a partner's issues can be, what did you offset that with? I mean, I know a lot of this might be personal, so answer what you can. But,
you're saying, how did I deal with having to
calm someone down?
Like I said, I became the responsible one. I've also always had a very nurturing element to me. All my friends know me as this nurturer, I always cook for them, and I always, like I do a lot for people, I make things for them, and I go out and do stuff. So I ended up...
And that's never gotten to you?
Yes and no. There are moments where I get, I think I flip and I become extremely selfish. I'm like, I want this, and I want you to leave me alone, and whatever. So I think there is that flip side to every coin. But I can't help it. Like I am a nurturer. Like I end up doing things for people if I really like them, and it just becomes like normal, just natural. There's no easy answer. It's a constant, it's a day-to-day struggle.
What is one big thing you've learned about relationships in the last 5 years that you didn't know before?
I guess you're never going to be able to be happy because of somebody else.
Yeah.
That you have to be happy because of yourself. because you will constantly start blaming the other person. You know, I mean, sure, somebody can make you happy, but you've gotta, if you're unhappy with your work and you're unhappy with who you are and what your decisions are, then it will automatically, you'll start seeking that from somebody else. You'll want them to tell you that you're great. You'd want them to, and you become that dependent person. So I think that, actually relationships are all wrong, in our society, and marriages are all wrong in the sense that there's this constant thing of the woman should depend on the man, and literally when I got married, suddenly men stopped talking to me. Suddenly they would talk to Anurag, and a question they would ask me through Anurag, and people would send scripts to Anurag for me. It was like people would take photographs of me, but they would ask Anurag. And I was furious. I was like, what is this? Why have I suddenly become this little like mouse? I'm still like just Kalki, and Anurag is still Anurag. So I think it's very important that at least the two people in the relationship get it. Like, that you guys are strong people on your own, and whatever. Like after that, of course, you share things and you depend on each other for stuff, but you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Yeah.
How do you see his journey as a filmmaker from the time you've known him?
I mean, from the time I've known him, I've obviously seen him really in this sort of Devdi time was really coming out of a really low point. I think after No Smoking and everything, he was just on a really, really low point. And even during the process of Devdi, even, after the film, I think that film was a bit of a turning point, because he changed the ending of that film during the shoot. It had a very depressing ending, and he changed it. And that was kind of a very symbolic thing, because his whole life was also sort of taking a turn. So I think that was a great thing. I still feel that he can go so far if he challenges himself to do a light-hearted film. He's still in a very, very dark zone. Wasipur is a brilliant film. I love it. The humor that's come out, I think, is unbeatable in compared to all his other films, which is the beginning of light-heartedness. That you can still have humor in that darkness. I've not read Ugly, that he's shooting right now. I like to see his films when they're done. So I'm waiting, but I've heard it's very dark. So I think, that's still a little evolution thing that he's going through, where he can take serious, heavy subjects and still bring some hope or some lightheartedness to it. With Yellow Boots, we had many arguments, but one of them was whether she should kill her dad or not. And I said, she shouldn't, because I feel that's the harder thing to do, to let go and to sort of move on, and rather than just, get into that hole of and just get into a unending sort of darkness. So that was the reason for the little bit of hope at the end of the film, that she drives off. So I think that's something that he can definitely explore as a director, and that he is exploring as a director. And otherwise, I think he's going for it, man. He's so confident, and he's so happy. I think for the first time in many years, he's getting to do what he really wants to do, and he's going for it.
Do you give him a lot of feedback?
I do when I watch the films.
No, also maybe about the way he works, or Anurag is not right now not just a filmmaker. He's also
an image. Yeah,
I mean, more than an image. It's not just an image. He's also a facilitator and a pass. And I mean, he is at the center of whatever change is happening, for better or worse. He is at the center of it. Do you give him a lot of advice, or do you think that can also be there is a need to draw a line there?
I mean, he has to figure it out for himself at the end of the day. But there's one thing that I've noticed.
I mean, you want to tell, and then you also want to
it is.
not tell.
But see, one thing I've noticed is in the last few in the last year or so is that he's suddenly become this flag holder for all independent cinema, the flag holder for anything that's alternative. And he's telling me he's feeling like a prostitute. He's like, I feel like a whore because I'm just running from one promotion to another of films which I had nothing to do with. And it's taken up all his life. He's unable to write, he's unable to create, and he's, at the end of the day, he's a director. Yeah. So all this other stuff that he's doing, it's wonderful and wow and all that, but he needs to do what he really does well, which is direct. Yeah. So of course there are times where I've told him this, but he also is right in the middle of it. There's nothing he can do right now. It's a process, right? He's going through this thing where he has to start giving responsibility to other people. He started nurturing these new filmmakers, Vasan and Shlok, who are, who peddlers that went to Cannes and stuff. So these are filmmakers who then can also spread their wings and can also help other people. So it's at that point where right now he's at the top of the pyramid, and he slowly needs to sort of come down and let everybody sort of come, to a more like a semicircle, less of a pyramid, so that he doesn't have all the pressure on him. So that's going to take a while, and that requires patience for sure. Like, I'm just like, come on, just tell them to fuck off and just do your own thing. And I want to spend time with him, I want to be with him and stuff, which right now is like we don't see each other at all. So it's tough, but you gotta wait it out. I think there's nothing better than time to really get through things. Yes.
Have you ever acted in, have you ever, as an actor...
Acted in French?
In French, in theatre, or never?
In fact, I was the other, 2 years ago, I went for this cultural festival in France. They invited me because it was all about exchange of cultures, and so because I'm French and Indian and all. So they made me, I had to do the opening speech. And I realized it was the first time I was doing a speech in public in French. I was so nervous. It was ridiculous. But yeah, it was a good thing to do, actually, because I'd written this very, very long and worked out proper little speech. In the end, at the last minute, I just put it away and I just said what I wanted to say. It was the best thing I could have done because it was just so formal, and so prepared. It was much better that I talked, and people really liked it.
Can you imagine a life without movies? Not watching movies, but being a part of movies?
Not anymore. I mean, I couldn't, I was so stubborn about acting. I knew I wasn't making any money. For a very, very long time, for 7 years, I didn't make any money off my acting, and I was just about making ends meet by getting other jobs and stuff. So it wasn't a practical thing. It was it came from somewhere else. It was this hunger, as I said, this want to do it and this excitement for it. So that's something that I can't imagine living without. Not to want to do what you love to do, and not to want to follow what you love to do, to just accept your job and not
what
particularly like
it.
Huh?
No, what about not working at all?
No, I'm like a workaholic. I don't mean earning money. But I have to keep my hands going. I have to keep doing something. If I'm not doing a film, then I'm writing, or I'm going out and learning some workshops. I'm going to Adi Shakti. I'm going to different parts of the world to study something to do with acting. It's endless. It's limitless.
You want to do this for the rest of your life?
Yeah, till I'm old. I want to have a walking still and still be
But movies or acting?
Acting. I mean, movies is a part of that for sure. And I'm very grateful to it. I love working in films, and it's... I hope to sort of keep going in that as well. But acting, I mean, I don't know, any type of acting. Maybe there's more. Maybe we have to discover a new kind of medium other than film and theatre.
I'm sure it'll come. Well, writing for one. I mean, that's something that you do and you should possibly do more of. But, okay, absolutely last question. Tell me about films that have had an influence other than which was not craft related. A movie that could have changed your perspective on something, or taught you something about living life, or deeply emotionally moved you, made you want to pursue something, read something. Influences other than on your acting.
I watched Bandit Queen when I was probably too young to watch it. And that film has never left me. I mean, obviously because I was about 14 when I watched it, and just the visual elements and the toughness of the film that hit me, obviously, like really hit me hard. But it made me so angry about this country. It made me so, like, I wanted to do something about this. I was like, we women cannot be treated like this anywhere, and it cannot happen. That was one film that really, really impacted me. Like, I think one of the strongest impacts in my life. Other than that, it's hard, huh? There's this film, and it's called Contact. I don't know if you've seen it. It's with Jodie Foster, and it's not a particularly amazing, cinematic film, but there's something about the conviction in that girl's character. I mean, obviously it's also her performance, but the way she believed in something which didn't exist, or which she couldn't prove, and that pursuit and that wanting to keep going, and that relationship between the guy who's a religious man and her who's completely scientific, and how they still found a place to meet because they were both looking for something that they couldn't prove. That is a philosophy that I love, fighting for something that you know exists even though you can't prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another film.
Name one romantic comedy that is integral to your idea of love.
Oh man, a romantic comedy that's integral. Well, I think I was very, very affected by Pride and Prejudice, although it was not a comedy, but it was extremely romantic, and that amazing, having to deal with society and the things, the behaviors and everything, and then still finding that way to express yourself and holding back and all of that I just love it. I'm a big sucker for it, and I'm totally in love with Colin Firth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
That's it.
Yeah.